Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MT4MH Studios, where we spread our love and we share our ketogenic lifestyles. This is the Find Your Keto Show, and I'm your host, Stephen T., ready to guide you on your low-carb journey. Today's guest is someone many of you may recognize from the Cholesterol Code documentary and from her work within the metabolic mental health community, Robyn Dobbins. Robyn currently serves as the community coordinator for Metabolic Collective, where she plays a major role in helping build and support one of the fastest growing communities focused on metabolic therapies for mental health. What's been especially meaningful for me is that Robyn has become more than just a colleague over the years. Through working together within Metabolic Collective, including times when she served in a supervisory role over a project I was involved with, I've had the opportunity to get to know her both professionally and personally. That working relationship has grown into a friendship, and I genuinely value that. One of the things I've always appreciated about Robyn is her leadership. She has a unique ability to remain confident and structured while also thinking outside the box. She's often able to see possibilities and solutions that others miss, and she's not afraid to challenge assumptions when she believes there's a better path forward. Those qualities have made her an incredibly valuable leader within the community, and in my opinion, a natural-born leader. Today, we're going beyond the story many people already know. We'll talk about her childhood, her relationship with food growing up, her experience with bipolar, metabolic therapies, recent challenges, what recovery really looks like over the long term, and the lessons she's learned along the way. Robyn, it's so great to finally have you here. How are you today?
I'm great. I like this intro where you talk about leadership and you make it sound like I'm not bullheaded and always trying to pick a fight with somebody. So that's beautiful. The truth is, I'm always thinking outside of what everybody else is thinking. And sometimes I don't know how to keep my mouth shut. And so it gets me in more trouble than it probably should. And then, somehow the people I work with, understand that about me, I guess. I should be very thankful that the people who I work around understand this feature that I have that I try so hard to suppress, but it never works. After a while, it just all bubbles out of my mouth. I have no filter whatsoever.
But that's what I love about you. And I've always said to you that I pride myself on being a good soldier, and I like to take leadership and direction. And from day one, I've always just seen you as a good leader. And that goes back to Metabolic Revolution. Is that almost 3 years ago now that I guess I first met you?
Yeah.
Always gravitate towards good leadership, and I saw that in you right away.
Well, thank you. And thanks for putting a positive spin on it. I, c- I, c- I can get behind that. I do. I find myself in leadership positions frequently, but then especially in the past, wouldn't know how to pull it back, or let somebody else have a go and that kind of stuff. So it's always we're always learning, right? So it's always a process, and you and I had to learn a lot about each other during that process. And I was like, no, I don't want to feel like your supervisor. I want to feel like we're collaborating and doing stuff together. And it took us a while to get there, but I feel real confident about how well we work together. And the same for you. When we met through Revolution, we like bonded immediately and had a goal and a task, and we went for it. And I think we both felt good about what we were doing. And so yeah, something about it, we just clicked right away. It's been a good adventure together.
And that's interesting because you and I can talk about how different we are in our approaches to life and our approaches to podcasts. Although a lot of similarities, we both like, I think, structure and discipline. We want things done a certain way and the right way, and we want everybody to fall in line as well and follow the same orders. But when it comes to podcasts, you interviewed me last week, and we spoke about doing hard things because facing challenges in life is what helps you grow. And we spoke about how it was challenging for us to appear on each other's shows because you don't really have much structure to yours. It's like, come on and tell your story, and we're just going to talk. And I was nervous about that because I want the structure. And then when you come on my show, I have a whole outline that I'm giving you. And so talk about how that makes you feel.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to having an outline and a structure. I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to have, know where you want to take a conversation and that kind of thing. And perhaps I'm the worst podcast host in the world because I don't do that. So my perspective on it is I want to have the very natural conversation. And I found when I was doing mine, which is called Keto Biography, by the way. So when I was doing Keto Biography, what I found over time is when I had it more structured and I listened back to it, I felt like it was like, I don't know what the word is. It just didn't feel authentic to me and who I am. I'm not that person. So even though I love to plan things, I like the conversation to be natural. But I'll be honest, Stephen, the thing that has had me the most hesitant about your podcast in particular, and I have not told you this yet, I was saving it for this moment, is the very last thing that you do.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I have hopped around the invitation and, we've talked about it, but never formally invited one another because we knew each other's hesitations, but mine is 100% the very last thing that you do. So I don't mind you telling me your structure. If you want to bog yourself down with all of that, that's on you. I'll look at it and say, yep, this is good. But yeah, it's definitely being silly at the end. But well, and when we had that first public facing meeting for Metabolic Collective and we were like, we should all be silly. I was like, I will not. I will be dressed professionally. There will not be a hat on a head, but I played along for a little while. So
You're making it
just
seem like you're not the type of person to put yourself out there to be silly. How do you explain your outfit at COSI when you did the watering hole with Casey Ruff? Come on. You're all about being silly.
I am. I'm all about being silly. I don't know. I get nervous about it. I can't explain it, I suppose. But yeah, I get nervous about it. But I feel a lot more comfortable now. If you had asked me to do this 2 years ago when we first met, I would have just been like, no, I can't do it. But that's part of the process, right? Like hosting my own show, going on other interviews. Now I'm at this point where I've had the opportunity to sit on panels. I've done something like the thing with Casey, I didn't think twice about that. Not he said yes. Natasha's my boss at Metabolic Collective. She said, let's do this live watering hole event and let's invite Casey. And I was like, oh, I'll be his assistant. And then I immediately, when he said yes, went online and bought the crazy outfit. I didn't think twice. I took a picture of myself in it and sent it to the coworkers, and they were all very excited about it. We were all excited about it. It was hyped up. And it wasn't until that day that I was like, oh, this is going to live on YouTube forever. And it's on YouTube. So if you go to Metabolic Collective's YouTube, which is at Metabolic Collective, there's me dressed in this funny outfit with, hey, doing some great workouts. And it's a great workout video. So yeah, I want people to watch it because it could get them started down the path. But yeah, I'm dressed silly and that's going to live on the interwebs forever. And again, I didn't think twice. That's the process. The process is to keep putting yourself out there, push beyond the nerves, and then you realize you live to see the next day. Everything's going to be fine. I can do the next thing and, get increasingly more confident as you go.
What I'd like to do in the post-production here is get a picture of that and throw it in here as we're talking about. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And our mutual friend Jumi has some really good pictures. I'm sure she'd let you borrow one of hers.
Yeah, because I want the audience to see you looked like. Well, why don't you describe what you looked like?
Well, I went with total 80s aerobics, complete with a scrunchie in my hair.
And leg warmers too, right?
Leg warmers. Yes, of course. I had leg warmers. I had the sweatband. It was all neon colors. And I mean, it's not at all flattering, but there we are.
And you're worried about saying fix yourself with fat.
Yes, yes. That makes me very nervous, but we'll get there when we get there. We still have we have an hour 45 minutes or so. I'll get there.
Consider yourself lucky because there, in the beginning, especially, there were guests coming on that didn't know that was coming. It wasn't a thing yet. So they didn't even know until I said, hey, this is what's coming next.
Yeah, I would have been like, click, I'm gone. It was nice seeing you.
So I want to point out something real quick about my lighting because it's not as good as usual. And this came from the end of our interview last week. Because when we were done, I could not wait to open up my blinds and get some natural light in this room. I hadn't been on a podcast or conducted my own interview in well over a year, and I forgot what it was like. So one of the things I do is I want to have the best looking show, the best production possible, but it requires a lot of work on my end. And well, the keto diet is my foundation. You and I talk about this. It's the foundation of what we do, but I do so much more to maximize my mitochondria. So I like to get as much sun as possible. And I avoid LEDs. There's only one LED bulb in this entire house. Everything else has been switched back over to incandescents. And we have no Wi-Fi. This is something that you and I will talk about a little bit later. There's no Wi-Fi in the house. I'm trying to avoid EMFs. So I'm doing all this stuff with my lighting to produce the best quality show. I have to close my blinds, and I have room darkening shades that I close as well. And I have these bright LED lights in my face. I can turn them on so you guys can see. But I had forgotten how awful it was, and I don't want to sit here for 2 hours doing the opposite of what I would normally do to help myself feel better. And really, that's just the basis of it is I want to feel better. I want to have natural sunlight. And so as I was getting ready for our show today, I was just getting ready to close the blinds and I was like dreading the idea of making it dark in here. So I decided to do something different. I'm prioritizing my happiness and my mental health over the show quality. And hopefully it doesn't look that bad, but if it does, I don't even really care.
I don't think you need a disclaimer for that. You do what's important to you. I hate that I do this. Not hate that I do this, but I have a window in front of me and I have a window next to me. Both have dark shades on them. The the only reason why these are black is because my hair is white. So my bookshelves are black because my hair is white. If I had a white bookshelf, felt like I would just blend into the background. And I'm in a corner of a bedroom, and I didn't want all of the bedroom stuff shown. So I feel like I sit in this dark corner. But and I sit here all day. I mean, this is my desk chair. So as soon as any recording is over, the light gets turned off and the windows get opened back up again. So I'm the same way. I want to have that light coming in the room.
Yeah, and I wasn't saying it as a disclaimer so people know about the quality.
Yeah.
We're about prioritizing how I feel and
Yeah.
why am I going to compromise myself? Like right now, you can see there's more light on this side of the room because I'm in my dining room because I have such a small house. So without the backdrop, you would see my dining room table and my kids' pictures all over the wall and stuff like that. But I was just pointing it out that I am not going to compromise myself. Why would I do that?
Listen, if anybody comes into your comments and says, Stephen, you look horrible, you need better lighting, we'll fight. Okay. We'll take them down.
Nice, I got it. All right, are you ready to start getting into our outline here? Does that make you nervous?
No, that one doesn't make me nervous.
All
You
right,
get
good.
to direct it though. I don't have it up because I won't look at it. So I don't even have it up on my screen. So go for it.
Yeah, no, you don't need to. Like I said,
Okay.
it's just a guide to help get us through. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I looked at it. So
Okay. We're going to start talking about your childhood. And I mostly want to know what your childhood was like growing up. I'm also going to ask what your diet was like growing up. It's up to you if you want to combine those things together or you want to keep them separate, however you want to do it.
yeah, most people don't ask about my childhood, so we can go back. That I have a hard time answering the questions because I don't remember. So this is probably indicative of whatever happens later on. I don't have that like earliest memory was when I was 2 kind of thing that happens in my head. I have like my earliest memory is much later in life. So I grew up in a single parent home. My dad left the house. I think I was in second or third grade. Like that's how I have no idea. I was in one of those 2 grades. So I was very little, when we changed to a single family home, my mom always cooked. All of my great grandparents are immigrants to the country, and I think that I feel bad now because it the cultural meals and all that kind of stuff. Like my mom still had that, my dad still has that, and then I have it, but I never really provided that for my kids, so it's like it ended with me in my lineage. So there was still a lot of, we cook at home. There wasn't in the earliest years, there wasn't a lot of like packaged foods, but of course this was I'm 48 years old, so it was there was packaged foods, but we weren't going to them until I was older. So until I was like in middle and high school, that's when that kind of started flooding in. My mom would cook eggs in the morning for us, and then she would leave for work. And in the evenings, my sister and I would do a lot of the cooking. So I learned how to cook pretty early on. But on the weekends, my mom would cook big meals. When we would visit my dad always cooked for us. So we had home. I grew up on homemade, mostly scratch made foods. I think that's a benefit to me in the future, what happens, because I had the knowledge on how to cook. So many people don't. It's such an important thing to know how to cook. And so I did have that knowledge. It's just that I spent a long time going for quick and easy, which is usually in a package. So I think that wraps that up. I like I said, I'm trying to think of like what I could consider my earliest memory. Uh, it's really later, like in my first year of middle school, which even though it was called middle school, it was seventh grade. I was switched from I don't know. I was first, they called it groups. I don't know if they call it groups. I don't even think they call it groups now because I don't think they're allowed to do it. But I was in what was considered B group, so just the average kids. And in my seventh grade year, I was like asleep in class all day and passing everything. Like I didn't do any work. And so my mom actually fought to get me moved up into the A group, the more advanced group. And so when I did that, I mean, I remember going through that process, and I remember just like losing all the friends that I had in elementary school and having to start over again. It's kind of sad to me that that's what I can call my earliest memory, because that's in seventh grade. I don't know what happened to kind of block everything, but it's very hard for me to access anything earlier than that. Like I can see snapshots because there are existing snapshots. Like I can recall a photograph, but I don't recall the events.
Wow, and I thought I had my childhood blacked out pretty well, but you're talking seventh grade. That's like maybe 13. I have memories from even first grade that are still pretty vivid for me. But I feel like I have a lot of holes in my memories of my childhood, but nothing like that. Mine are kind of, I guess, pieced into different ages where I was.
Yeah, mine is 100% just a huge black hole. And I can recall noticing that like in high school, like I don't remember, and everybody else could talk, like my sister can talk about her earliest memory is when my mom was pregnant with me. Of course, it was a traumatic experience. My mom caught on fire on like her maternity pants caught on fire. Um and so they're like polyester and elastic in the late 70s. So my sister remembers that and remembers my mom putting out the fire with her hands, and like the only reason why my mom didn't go into shock is because my sister was standing there watching. So she's 3 and or 2 or 3, and she remembers that. I'm like fascinated by that because I can't pull very much out.
Wow. I'm some of my earliest memories are when I was 4 years old and I went down to Florida to see my grandparents and we went to Disney. I kind of remember a little bit of the Sea World, and I remember my grandmother had a whole bunch of cockatiels or something. So like her garage was filled with birds. I remember that, like some of those memories from 4 years old.
I remember, well, so this is how bad me not knowing things is. We did go to Disney World, and Epcot Center. I think I was 5. And I went back again. It's terrible. I can't believe I'm telling you the story. We went back again when I was in high school. And We're sitting in the tiki room with the tiki birds. Do you know the tiki birds? Okay. So we're sitting there waiting for the show, and I look up and I go out loud, they're not real. So for that whole time from like 5 years old until 16, I thought these were like trained birds that knew how to sing the tiki song. And so yeah, there we go. We'll just leave it at that. I've been made fun of in the family ever since for thinking that, but yeah. So yeah, there's holes. I have big gaping holes, and I've thought about like perhaps digging into that, but then I'm also like afraid to find out why I've done it. So I don't know, maybe it's okay to be blissfully unaware of what happened.
It could be. Yeah, I was considering asking you if you've ever done any kind of therapy around it, or if you've been interested in trying to figure out what was going on during that time. If it's not something that's bothering you or keeping you awake at night, maybe it's better off to just leave it where it is in the past.
That's exactly where I am. Like it doesn't keep me up at night, and I'm just gonna have to roll on because I think that would be a road I just don't want to go down.
I mean, is it possible that you would make any changes to your life today based on what happened when you were that young? Probably not.
No, no, absolutely not. I can't go back. Most of the players involved aren't around anymore. I don't have contact with them if they are, and yeah, there would be no point in doing it.
Right. Let sleeping dogs lie.
Exactly.
When you were growing up, did anyone in your family struggle with mood or mental health issues, including you? You or anyone in your family, really?
Well, I know I first noticed mine when I was in high school, and I didn't know, I wouldn't really know to look for that in anybody else in my family. But as I got older, I was like, okay, this is a thing. We all have this. I'm the first one to say it out loud. I do have a cousin who passed away by his own hand. I have just just things like you could see that people within my family have struggled with this, but you go in that time where it's taboo and you can't talk about it, there's too much, or also the family was very religious, so it would be kind of anti their beliefs to even discuss any of that stuff. So I'm literally the first person to be like, no, I have a mental illness and I need to go seek treatment for it. I grew up in a house that had a lot of rules, just a lot of rules. um the one that I can describe the most is that on it was Christmas. So my immediate family, my sister, my mom, and I, my dad did too, but we lived away, about 3 hours away on the eastern shore of Maryland, and my whole family lives in Baltimore. So on Christmas morning, we would unwrap our presents, but the rule was we had to be at Christmas morning in Baltimore. So, and there was another rule that everything that we opened had to stay under the tree for like 3 weeks. I guess maybe until the Feast of the Epiphany. I don't know, but our presents stayed under the tree in their boxes for that amount of time. So we would very excitedly open all of our presents, then put them all back under the tree, and then get in the car and go visit family. And when we were visiting family, there was this thing where we would go to each person's house and see all of them. They had all of their presents under the tree. My cousins would get out, show us what they got, put it all back under the tree, and then we would go play. So I didn't think it was strange because the whole family did that. Then I get married and have my own kids, and that starts getting applied to us. The pressure to open our presents at our house, go not only just go to my mother's house and do a Christmas morning there with a breakfast, but have that breakfast finished by this time so we can all get in the car and go to Baltimore. So it was extended by a generation at this point. And I was doing it like, this is how it works. I'm telling Matt, this is how it works. This is how we do Christmas. And Matt's going, this is crazy. Like, I don't understand what y'all are doing. I'm like, well, this is what we do. Like, I don't know any different. It took years, and it finally was I was pregnant with my daughter, so she's the youngest of my two. And we lived in Pennsylvania, not in Maryland at the time. And her birthday is December 29th. So I was not allowed to travel because I was so super duper pregnant at the time. So we did Christmas morning at our house. His parents were there because they were on baby watch. Like they needed to stay with my son if I had to go into the hospital. So we did Christmas with my son. We let him play with all of his stuff. We didn't throw it back underneath the tree. And that broke the cycle. It was like, oh, this is how Christmas can be. Like we could play with their stuff, which turned into years later. Yeah, we lived in South Carolina. We only spent one Christmas in Pennsylvania. We moved to South Carolina, and it was still the expectation that we would go to Maryland. We would wake up Christmas morning, open our presents at home, leave them all there, pile up in the car, drive 10 hours and go visit everybody in Maryland. And we may have done it once. And then I did this whole, if I have a kid in diapers, we're not traveling. Like, period. We're not doing it. And then Matt's parents lived in West Virginia on a mountain with snow. And I was like, if we're going to go anywhere, we're going to West Virginia. So it turned into this whole like uproar. And it goes back into the childhood and how things were, is that like my mom would then lay a lot of good old Catholic guilt. So I would get, well, don't you, it wasn't, we would really like to see you at the holiday times. Can we schedule something? Can we make that work? It was, your kids deserve to wake up in their own beds on Christmas morning. But we weren't. We would literally hide every gift in our car, put them in it, get them to West Virginia, and spend a week there visiting Matt's family. And we would have Christmas at their house. But I was getting all of this. They deserve to be in their home. Da, 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 da. And yet my mom still wouldn't. My mom still wouldn't stop I have to wake up on Christmas morning at my house and go to Baltimore thing to come visit us for Christmas. So like it's this whole thing. It's hard to really get all of it out, but I have a lot of animosity about all of that. And it wasn't until I happened to be pregnant over the Christmas holiday to really start breaking that cycle and realize the point of this whole story, that the rules that I grew up with were house rules, that's not how the rest of the world worked. And it really put me in a spiral because I would then ask myself, well, is this real or is this made up? And I would really have to question stuff and lean on Matt quite often. Like, is this just something I grew up with, or is this how the world works? And it really started this like questions that I went through and may have triggered me going even deeper into a depression because I like my whole reality just shifted and with that realization.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I'm sorry to hear about the struggles that you experienced in high school. I had similar things happening with me. Sorry to hear about your cousin. The thing that you're describing about Christmas, I can relate to in so many ways. And this makes me want to add a question for my future guests to ask them what Christmas was like growing.
Yeah, that's an interesting, yeah. I don't know if you listened to Adam Carolla, but he has the sandwich theory. What did your sandwich like? You know how well you were loved by your family by what type of sandwich you were presented, and it's an interesting theory. But I would be presented with some pretty good sandwiches. So I'm not saying there wasn't love in my family. I just think that it came with so much structure that it was hard to feel it sometimes.
Yeah, and that's exactly the word I was imagining as you were describing the whole thing, is how structured it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Adam. I used to listen to Adam and Dr. Drew when they were on Loveline, like years ago, before even podcasts were a thing. I'm trying to remember how I even got them, but I would listen to them in the car somehow. And that was a part of my story. That was how I heard Vinnie Tortorich for the first time talking about the all meat diet was on with Adam and Drew. I love those guys.
Yeah, I listen to them uh well, when I have time. So I don't listen to podcasts as often as I used to. So it used to be on constant rotation.
I don't have the time for it really. And
Yeah.
when I do have the time, it's more I want it to be mindless. It's like downtime for me. It might be early in the morning while everybody's sleeping. And I'm not trying to put on like your story. I don't want to hear something that I need to concentrate on or something that's going to stir up my own emotions. I'm usually listening to something about the New York Giants because I'm a huge New York Giant fan. And if I miss like half of the show, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Well, he said mindless, so you could always listen to mindless body radio.
The mindless body. I have a whole big long list of friends of mine that have been on his show now that I haven't had a chance to listen to. I will eventually.
So yeah, and just to correct herself, is boundless body, and that's with Casey Ruff, and we jokingly call it mindless body, and it's stuck.
It's an
So
book, yeah. And
don't get in trouble.
yeah. So going back to your struggles that you started feeling in high school, did you ever notice any of it tied to things that you ate or maybe your energy levels? Like, did it get worse when you were tired, or did you notice anything like that?
No, I never noticed. But I mean, it just wasn't in my nature to notice at that time. So my freshman year of high school, one day all of my friends that I had made in middle school, because I changed from B group to A group, they all just like looked at me one day and said, "We don't want to be your friend anymore." It was a traumatizing experience. I'm 48 right now and still talk about it with a lot of emotion. That went on probably my entire freshman year and into my sophomore year. Like people just didn't, they just chose not to be my friend. To the point where this is a vivid memory I have. I was walking down the hallway. It was during class, and one of those friends was coming towards me, and I was averting my eyes. Like, don't make it was just the two of us in the hallway, and I'm making a conscious effort to avert my eyes because I didn't want to have some sort of conflict. But she looked at me and said, "I don't know why nobody talks to you. This is just this random passing in the hallway. I don't know why anybody talks to you. I don't know why this happened, but I miss being your friend." So she and I became friends again. And then the others started to come around. But I always had I mean, that's a traumatizing moment, right? So I always then from there forward had trust issues. So I never opened up about myself. I never talked about myself. I never, it, I would go along for the ride. There was a lot of things I wasn't invited to. It would make me really angry that I wouldn't get invited to those things. So I always had this, I feel lesser than. So it just destroyed any confidence, any self-confidence that I had. And it was very lonely, very, very lonely. So my sister was a senior my freshman year. So she kind of took me under her wing that year. And then like the next class of seniors would take me in, and then they'd graduate and leave. Then the next class, and then finally I'm a senior, and I just felt very alone my senior year. I did stuff with people, but I was never like in engaged because I always just with my peers felt like I didn't belong. I was the one like if we were all in class together and I got an A on something and they didn't, they'd be like, "I can't believe Robyn got an A. We're smarter than her." So, that leaves a mark on a person. So I never felt like I was good enough. And this follows me, not the friendship issues, but the confidence issues followed me into college. I never felt like I was good enough. I I would look at people and just be like, how come they must like I'd be just like super judgmental. Oh, well, they're using mommy and daddy's money. That's why they're able to do so well. Or they had an in with so and so. That's why they're doing so well. It was never I'm doing poorly because I'm not putting in the right amount of effort. It was always finger pointing and looking at somebody else and being like, well, I'm just never going to be that way because I don't have the things that they have available to them.
I can totally relate with the feeling of less than. When you interviewed me, I spoke about that. That's a big part of my story growing up. I was always smaller than everyone else. I was always a little bit smaller and skinnier, and I got picked on a lot. And I did not have any kind of confidence whatsoever. And I've learned later in life that I think if I had confidence back then, I wouldn't. Life would have been totally different. I would have had a lot more girlfriends. I would have had a lot more friends. Life would have been totally different. And it does leave a mark. And it's interesting how now you and I have this similarity of not fitting in, always feeling less than. Look at where we are today. I never knew your age, so seeing you as my superior in our professional relationship, for some reason in my mind, I was always thinking like you were older than me because I'm looking up to you, I guess. But I'm actually a year older than you. I'm 49. Uh,
Yeah, you're older than me.
so that's interesting. But you look at where we were in life in high school, and now you look at where we are in life today, and we're part of this community, and we're not just part of it, but you and I are both leaders in different ways in this community, and we both have real meaningful friendships with people, real meaningful connections, and we have people that respect us and value us and look up to us as leaders. So what a contrast from high school to now, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not without its own amount of work. As we've talked before, I don't know, and there's lots of holes here. So there's a 20-year gap in my knowledge base on how to interact with people. Um, so each experience, even at this age, is is new. And I feel like a kid in a lot of ways because I'm like, I should have navigated this when I was like 8, but I didn't. So now I have to do it 40 years later. Um, but it doesn't stop me from wanting to try. And I think because of it, still having the adult brain, it's like I can learn from this, where I didn't have that when I was younger. It would have just been extremely frustrating and make me angry and all of that stuff. Whereas now it's like, okay, I just need to be honest. I'm frustrated with the process because I'm doing something that I need to learn how to do better. Um, and being able to be open with people about that has been really useful.
I find this so fascinating because I'm in the same boat as you, and I don't even think I realized that we were experiencing such similar things. That it is all new for me. It's only in the last couple of years that I have people that I can call real friends, real close friends in my life, and people that I can count on and rely on for things. And the way that people see me in this community is still very unfamiliar. And there's there's a dynamic of, and people think I'm with Metabolic Mind, and they see the Think Smart or they see the coaching video that you and I did for the holidays, and it automatically puts us like in a celebrity type status. You more so, you're in a movie and all that. So immediately some people are going to look at us like we're stars. They're going to put us up on pedestals. I've never experienced that in my life before. It's very strange and can be uncomfortable. And even for me to confidently say I'm a leader in this community, I'm saying it, but it still doesn't feel right. I'm trying,
Saying it and feeling it are two wildly different things. Yeah.
right. And I'm trying to speak it in more into fruition than it is. But it's, it's just strange and unusual. It's unfamiliar, and it's all brand new. And it feels like I just woke up yesterday. Like I was just born yesterday and I have to learn this all over again.
I completely agree with all of that. It does. It feels like I just woke up a couple years ago and I'm still navigating things like a toddler. So I'm bouncing off of walls, like these things so yeah, I'm this 48-year-old just toddling through life right now. But at the same time, um, yeah, suddenly finding myself in this place where people look to me, that's been really hard to grasp. I just feel like I'm living my life. I have always chosen to be open. As I said when we first start talking, I don't have much of a filter. So um it was never part of my plan to be like, I have a mental illness, I'm going to keep that to myself, which is probably what happened with uh the generations higher than me, older than me in my family. But um I never wanted to be that way. So yeah, everything's new, and I now find myself with this very mild, I say, this is what I say to my kids: in very small circles people know who I am. So it's a very mild celebrity state of celebrity, that I I don't really understand, because the whole thing is I just want to I found something that works for me. I see the value in it, and I want other people to know that there's value if they want to try it. I've never forced anybody to do any of it. And that's led to some pretty amazing places for both of us. We were both on like the Think Smart profile before that was published. We were tests for it. We had the opportunity to do some videos with Metabolic Mind before it was what it is today. So we were on the ground floor of a lot of the stuff that people look at. I'm so wildly fascinated when I meet somebody who says, I'm doing this for my mental health. Like they choose to eat this way for their mental health, because that is not my experience. I ate this way and found the benefit accidentally. A year later, I realized what was going on. But that makes it a little hard to have conversations though too, because of that. Because I'm like, I don't know why you're thinking about it so hard. I don't have to think about it really hard. I just did it, like. So that in some cases, I think there's like too much information. Like it can be, especially for someone like who has OC. Okay, I got to hit this macro. I got to do this. And like, I got to be real regimented. Like, I almost feel like some of that feeds into the mental illness and doesn't help the mental illness. I'm very much like, look, do what you can. I just cut out sugars and grains. You can do this without ever tracking it. Like, make it easy for yourself. If you find yourself bogged down and circling, it's not going to help. It's going to feed it. So it's been a wild ride. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing that you and I share in common that might be kind of rare, is that I found ketosis by accident too. I didn't know what it was or what was happening at the time. It was later on down the line that I found out Chris Palmer and doctors were using this for people. I had no idea. So it's hard. I'm running meetups and I'm dealing with new people all the time, and they want to know like, well, what was my transition period like, and did I experience keto flu? I'm like, I have no idea. It just kind of happened all by accident. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't know it was even a thing.
But I guess I could go back into this mild celebrity thing, if you want to call it that. It has opened up the opportunity to talk to people more and say that piece. Like it doesn't have to be a strict like what you see on the internet from the science, from the doctors that are applying it, like those are special cases. A lot of times, those are very unique paths, but we each have our own unique pathway, and they don't all have to be that structured and that well monitored. That there start in one place. If you need to make it a little deeper as time goes on, do that, but you don't have to do all the things all at once. It's that's where you hit a wall and say this doesn't work. And if the more gently we can try, uh, the more we can just be like, I'm doing this for myself. I'll mistakes can happen. Like perfection's never the goal for anything in life. If we were perfect, I say this quite frequently, if we were perfect, what would be the point? We wouldn't have anything to work toward. So when I talk to somebody and I'm like, wow, this is wild to me that you are doing this because of your mental health. When I was at my most ill, it would not have occurred to me to even search for something. My thought was the only thing that's going to fix me is medication, and I'm just going to have this secret conversation with my doctor about it, get the meds and feel better. So I'm glad people are now finding it this way. I do think it's because of people like us who early on were willing to share our story to get it out there. I think the storytelling well, obviously, I think the storytelling holds a lot more weight than the science that is paired with it. You got to have that experience where something resonates. And me going to watch a video about a lecture on what depth of ketosis, that's not going to click with me, especially if I'm in some sort of crisis. I just need to hear, this is what I did. It was super simple. Give it a try. It doesn't need to be bigger, or more advanced than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're talking about with keeping things simple. And the thing you said before about information overload, I think it's a major issue. It's a blessing that we have so much information out there, but I am talking to people all the time that they are dealing with low motivation and brain fog. Some of them can't get out of bed. Some of them can't get off the couch. And so what do? They're on YouTube all day. And they're like, well, this doctor says to eat sardines, and this doctor says to eat beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And then this person was doing, they said they were doing medical keto, which really doesn't have a definition really to a lot of people. They were doing medical keto and then they went carnivore. So I want to go carnivore because they think it's like some kind of magic pill. And people are so confused and they spend so much time floundering around. And you're putting out a great message that it can be as simple as just remove sugars, remove grains like you did with NSNG. And this is my whole motivation behind the fire diet plan that I've written is to try to reduce that overwhelm and to give a starting point for people so it's structured, but you can start real gentle and easy and you can just remove for the very first tier, you can just remove the processed foods. Maybe you're someone who just wants to clean up your diet a little bit. And I'm trying to create a pathway because all I see out there is tons and tons of confusion. People don't know what to do.
I 100% agree. I'm enjoying the pre-send of your book. I'm like halfway through. I love when I'm reading it, I was just like, oh, I feel the same way. Oh, I feel the same way. Oh, I feel so it's resonating. You've done a great job with it. So um I I will take this to a different place. I will not use mental health as my example. In the process of cutting out my sugars and grains, going deeper, trying carnivore, I went carnivore for a full year. And I still had symptoms like my heart would be bounding. My hands and feet are always cold. So I assumed that I had some sort of thyroid issue. Both of my parents have had their thyroid removed. So I figured that was probably a good place to start. Well, I get tests done. This was a crazy process because I always get labeled as non-compliant when I go to the doctor. So the first doctor does
No,
the
non-compliant. I can't see that person.
yeah, you can't see it, right? I get labeled non-compliant everywhere, but especially at the doctor's office. So um I ask for blood work. I have to tell them to do like the free T3 and the not just the TSH. I have to tell them to do a full panel. They don't know what it is. I get the results back and I can clearly see that my antibodies are super high. And I'm like, oh, okay, I have Hashimoto's. Like I diagnosed myself based on the labs. I go back to the doctor to have a conversation about what's next. And they actually look at me and say, why are you here? And I'm like, well, because clearly I have Hashimoto's disease. Do you want to do something about it? And they were like, well, when you get nodules, we'll just take out your thyroid. And I was like, okay, well, we're done here. Thanks. It's been real. Thanks for doing the blood work. That's what led me to go see Dr. Tro as my doctor because I knew he would understand. And I was like, look, I'm just interested in trying to save it. I know it's under attack, and I don't know how long it's been under attack. I don't know if it's something that can be saved. Um, so yeah, we started working on a plan. But if you go on the internet and look at what to do for Hashimoto's when you're carnivore, it's going to say add iodine and it's just going to fix it. And I'm here to tell you that I have known about my Hashimoto's for 5, 6 years now. And I tried to add iodine. I break out in hives, so that might just be a special case for me. But I also tried what was the up and coming it's you rarely hear it talked about, but it's used. It's low dose naltrexone. I did that for 3 years, and it never. And my diet is always clean. My diet is always clean. My diet is foundational. I do not budge from that. And I'm here to tell you that my antibodies are still through the roof. So I hear from people all the time. This is not, so this is aside from mental health, but I hear from people all the time. Well, I saw this person cured their Hashimoto's. I see this person cured their Hashimoto's. And all they did was add 4 drops of Lugol's to their drink. And I'm telling you, that's not the case for everyone, but all we see on the internet is those people. We don't see the people like myself who still continue to struggle despite all of that. And I think that's an important thing that is overlooked all the time. And that is also creating the confusion within the mental health. They see everyone who is proclaiming that they're cured, and I would never say that about myself. I say it's in remission. They it's just so much messaging out there, and I implore everyone to look in your feed and notice who is an influencer, who is a storyteller, and who is a researcher doctor, and notice the difference, because the influencers are just trying to get clicks. They are not trying to help you. We talk about the medical system and going to the doctors, and they have an agenda. The doctors have an agenda. They have to follow the rules of their system, and the pharmaceutical companies, and blah 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 blah. Hello, that is exactly what is happening with influencers. I hate it when I get lumped in with an influencer. I'm telling the stories, I'm sharing the stories. I want people to know what's possible and what's not possible, things to look for, things to watch for, all those kinds of things. But I'm never trying to sell somebody something. And I am not, look, if you can look at I've been in a film. I'm in a very popular film right now. I've just received over 2,000 followers on X. I'm not I'm not an influencer by any means. I'm just telling real stories, and that doesn't catch the algorithm, that doesn't sell, that doesn't give me any profit, and I don't receive any profit. Uh, but if all you're doing is following all of these influencers because they are seeking clicks, they want your clicks, they get money from your clicks, then you're going to find yourself confused all the time. And I from a very early stage in this journey said, find one thing, stick to it for six months. So if your one thing that you're going to do is cut out sugars and grains, you don't have to fast, you don't have to add fat, you don't have to test your ketones, you don't have to just do that for 6 months, see how you feel. If you feel like you need more, try something else, add to that baseline. But it doesn't have to be, I've watched this person, they told me to do this. I watched this person, they told me to do that. You're never going to find success. You're always going to be chasing the dragon and never finding a solution for yourself.
I love this so much, man. You got me all passionate now because you're totally speaking my language. I was working with someone the other day and they said, I don't get it. I'm doing keto for 6 weeks. How come I don't feel better? I just saw a video with a guy. He started doing keto and he felt better in 4 days. I'm like, well, 4 days. I don't know. I need more details. Is this guy taking medicine? What is he doing with his diet? What was his diet like before? Like I had all these questions and the person, they couldn't answer. They didn't know. All they know is they clicked on some video and the guy was better in 4 days. And how come they're not better in 4 days? And the same message that I give to everybody is the inspiration for the name of my channel. It's Find Your Keto, because everybody's keto is different. And people come to me a lot and they want to know, what am I doing? And I say, well, I'll tell you what I'm doing, but you're not going to do what I'm doing because there's really not many people out there that are going to do what I'm doing. And then I have my daughter's version of keto, which is completely different from mine. And so I use them as a range. Like we're kind of on extreme ends. She's very low fat and all these different foods. I'm very high fat. But I always tell people, I would say, Robyn, you need to find the Robyn Keto. I'll tell you what the Stephen Keto is and what the Samantha Keto, but you got to find the Robyn Keto. And now, does that mean you're going to be eating sardines? Well, I don't know. Maybe you could try it and see. Does it mean you're going to be fasting? If that's something you like and you want to do, then maybe you're going to be fasting. I don't know. Everybody's keto is going to be completely different. So it's fine if you want to go, and even if you're listening to influencers, and you can pull little bits and pieces from what everybody's doing, but you still got to find what works for you. You can't just say, I'm going to do this, and because they got better in 4 days, well, I should get better in 4 days too. It does not work that way. Progress is not linear, and it's not the same for everybody. And it's just something I'm extremely passionate about, and it's a large part of my motivation for writing this plan, because I want to be able to hand somebody something and say, do this. You can do this, and you can find your way. And it's like following a roadmap. We're all trying to get to the same destination, but everybody's going to be taking different roads and different journeys and driving in a different car.
I couldn't agree more. And I want to add, it adds on to our discussion about feeling comfortable having these conversations. It's you can't follow someone else's plan because you will not learn from it. It's your progress is not linear statement. You have to hit a bump and regroup and figure out what caused that problem, address it and fix it, and go and start again. If you're following someone else's plan to a T and seeking, like, the only thing that you're observing in that process is how you feel. That's it. That's the only thing you're observing is how you feel. And you're not feeling better by the expected time that you saw on some influencer's channel, then it's not going to work, because you're not paying attention to the nuances on what works for you. I'm now nearing my 9th year eating this way. And I cannot look at somebody who's just starting and say, well, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, because I didn't do that when I was starting. We all have a starting point and it's different for everyone. And we hit different bumps along the way. Mine most definitely is Thanksgiving and Christmas, which a lot of us share. And how many years in a row did I run into the wall and just do a total face plant because I decided I could handle desserts for those 2 holidays? Until I finally said, that's it, no more. I literally had this experience where I took the pies, threw them in the trash, poured soap on them, tied them up, and put them in the outdoor trash can. And it was like a cathartic experience. I'm never going to do this again because these things are hurting me. They're not serving my purpose. But I'm 5-6 years in at this point when I finally have that realization. So I can't, in good faith, look at somebody who's just starting and say, well, you need to cut all these things out. You're doing it wrong if you don't. We all had to hit the road. I would never have learned that about myself had I not had the experience. And I would never have learned to look for what those things feel like had I not had those experiences. So we can't use somebody else, their plan, their program to a T. We have to use our own intuition and learn what that looks like and stumble and fall and get ourselves back up again. That's where the healing happens. The healing is in the standing back up and moving forward.
I love it. I just love it so much. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And I've always been very adamant about saying that I am not perfect. I'm not a robot or a machine. I'm not capable of making the perfect choices all the time. And I use the analogy like I just did of driving down the road of life. And just like everyone else, I run into traffic jams and accidents and potholes, and I have accidents and I take wrong turns and I veer off course. And these things are going to happen, but I will always get back in the car. I will always get back up. I will always keep fighting and keep trying. And going back to when I was on Mindless Body over a year ago, I made sure that I said that because this is something that Mia Mendez and I talk about. It's not like you just reach the destination and I can just throw my hands up and I say, I'm in keto heaven now and I can just take my foot off the gas. It's still a constant learning process. I'm still in the car traveling the destination. And sometimes when I'm working with people, they want to know, well, how long is it going to take to get where you're? Oh, I said, well, I'm doing this for 6 years. So it's probably going to take you 6 years to get where I'm at. We're both traveling cross country. I just left 6 years ago. So I'm further to California than you are, right? You just left 6 weeks ago. You haven't even left New Jersey yet. That's the analogy I use. But I'm still learning. I'm still experimenting, trying new things, evaluating how they make me feel, and always trying to figure out the best way to travel the road of life.
Yeah, that's all we can do. That's it. That's all we can do. We're on a journey. There's no end point. It is a daily decision. So anybody who's looking at me 9 years in, or anybody who's been in it longer than me going, I wish I could get there. I wish I could do what they're doing, but I never can. Here's the thing. It's a daily decision. It's never easy. So now I do think it can be simple. I think choosing your diet and other therapies that work for you can be simple because you're choosing it based on you and who you are. But it's not easy always. There's going to be a checkout line with your favorite candy bar in it. There's going to be a holiday event with your favorite pie. These things are going to happen. So it shows who you are and how much you value yourself and your healing, what kind of decision you make when you're faced with those things. I'm at a point 9 years in that I can look at those things and be like, I used to love that, but I'm not going to have it. That's not the case. That's not the me of 9 years ago, or even 8 years ago, or 5 years ago. That person was like, I could have a little bit, it'll be fine. And then find myself like totally against the wall, feeling anger, feeling all the, all those terrible things. I had eaten so much sugar one holiday season that I had neuropathy in my hands and feet, and I was petrified of what that, like, that would be permanent. And I said, I'll never do this again, and I haven't. It's just not worth it to me. I actually do consider myself a little bit and oddly blessed in that I do get that kind of feedback, or that I do notice that kind of feedback for myself. I think that people who are doing it, changing their diet, and they don't have that kind of feedback, I think it's even harder for them. And somebody will look at me and say, well, I don't want to tell my story because it's not as good as yours. And I'm like, there's value in every single story. And I think the people who don't get that immediate feedback, their stories hold a lot more weight in my mind than anybody like myself who has this feedback, because they are actually choosing on a daily basis to continue this foundational structure of their diet, for their longevity, for their healing, for whatever may get thrown at them in their future, without the immediate feedback from their bodies of a depressive episode or something like that. I don't know how people who, even now, I don't know how people who don't have that kind of feedback continue, because I have this motivational factor that's like dangling in front of me. I've got this carrot that I don't actually want to grab, always dangling in front of me, whereas they don't, and yet they still continue. I find that very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. So I feel like we could probably spend another 2 hours just talking about this because we're both passionate about it. I had a lot of stuff I wanted to get to.
It's all good. See, I just go with the. Here's the thing for me, Stephen, and maybe, um, it, like you said earlier, that we're all on the same road, but we're on different. So I'm a little bit ahead of you on the road.
Mhm.
Um, I have come into interviews, even these panels that I've sat in on, with this one thought in mind. It's my story and it doesn't change. So somebody can ask me whatever they want, and I'm not going to have the wrong answer because it's my story and that's never going to change. I might not know an answer, and I'm okay with saying I don't know the answer. So throw whatever you want at me, because I don't need, I trust myself to not be dishonest with my story.
Okay, great. So, the name of the channel obviously is Find Your Keto, and we're both doing ketogenic diet as the foundation. So I do like to keep it to that. And we talked about your diet growing up. So what I want to know, what was your diet like before you changed it to make it keto?
I was a mom of two young children, and in the age of all the easy foods. So I would make Pop Tarts. Um, like, I used to love the toaster strudels. I would eat 2 or 3 bowls of cereal, and the best is like Golden Grams or Corn Pops. None of that, like, quote unquote healthy stuff. Although if I ate Raisin Bran, I would, as my mom taught me, add 2 spoonfuls of sugar to make it even better. Also, I like to wait till it got really soggy and eat it. So soggy, sweetened milk with raisins, basically. Um, I would make them like chicken nuggets and French fries. So I would eat that. They used to love their hamburger helper. So, rice or pasta with some meat thrown in. And I had a huge ice cream habit, which is not a bowl of ice cream. It's more of a bowl of ice cream. I would use like a serving dish for my ice cream. Uh, as That's how I ate. And I ate when I could. I was pretty mentally ill. My energy levels were low, so I would sneak a couple bowl of ice cream, a couple bowls of cereal here and there. Oh, hot pocket, something I could do real fast, to throw a hot pocket in the microwave. I do that. But because of my foundation in my family, I did cook dinner. I would cook dinner usually. My husband has always traveled for work. So when he wasn't home, I would do more of the quick things the kids food, and just eat what they were eating. But then when he was home, we would make really nice meals. I mean, I know how to cook. I just don't do it very often. So, um, that is a huge difference. So I end up in the doctor's office when I turn 40. So I was like 39 and 3/4. And I go to the doctor's office and they're like, well, your triglycerides are high, your cholesterol levels are all out of whack. You need to go on a statin. And I said, I don't really want to, but I heard about this thing that I can change my diet and that should fix it. And thankfully, he was agreeable. He said, you are not going to die in 6 months. So go ahead and give yourself 6 months to change your diet. So that's what I did. And that's when I dove full into the NSNG, no sugars, no grains lifestyle. And that's all I did. I just cut out all the sugars and cut out all the grains. So when I say sugars, that means I cut out fruit. I cut out, I did not at the time, like I said, I had a big ice cream habit. I taught myself to eat high fat Greek yogurt, even though I didn't like it, just to switch myself off of ice cream. So I made some adjustments there. So there was still a lot of dairy in my diet, but it was whole foods, uh, almond flour, that kind of stuff, like making this kind of fathead pizza crust, that kind of stuff. I make my own sauce, so I never put sugar in my sauce, so that wasn't an issue. And so it was really just that simple. Just that simple. I cut out all sugars. I cut out all grains. And I tell people when I coach people, which is not very often, but when I coach people, I'm like, hold it in your hand and ask yourself, is this made up? Does this have sugar? Does this have grain? And if the answer is yes to either one of those things, put it down. And I don't mean, does it have, you know, a healthy grain? Does it have quinoa? Does it have some quote unquote healthy grain? No, if it is a grain, put it down. You don't get to have it. If it is sugar, and that means if it's a cantaloupe, put it down. It's not for you, especially in that first 6 month period. You really want to, it isn't easy, but it's simple. It isn't easy, but it's simple. So that's what I did for the first 6 months. There was no fasting. There was no, I only eat this time of day and this, like, there was no eating window. This is really important. I think a lot of people miss it when you're first transitioning from the high carb diet to a low carb diet. You need to eat. And sometimes that's constantly because your body's just not used to it. It doesn't know what it's doing. So I ate whenever I was hungry, which was all the time. And I ate a lot because it was all the time because my body didn't know what the heck was going on. But when I went back for my appointment, my numbers were all trending in the correct direction. The doctor said, just keep doing what you're doing. And that's when I started to experiment a little more and started doing things. Like I noticed one of the first things that I noticed was that I had more energy. So I would go for a walk. Like I'd never went for walks. I did when my son was little, but after we moved to Pennsylvania, that stopped. And I never really picked up a daily walking habit again until after uh, I changed my diet. So I would walk first I was just walking the neighborhood. Then I was walking two neighborhoods. Then I was finding a local trail. And then like all of that started happening. I noticed that I wasn't, well, I grew up, we were in South Carolina at the time. So Wednesday night church is a thing. And Wednesday night church always has a supper associated with it. So I was just like, well, I can never eat anything there. So I'm just not going to eat that day. So that would just be like a 1 day fast. And then I started challenging myself to stop eating the dinner before, not eat all day long, and then not eat until the next dinner. So I'd have like a 48-hour fast. And this is early on. This is in my first year of doing this. And that worked well for me at the time. I had 50 extra pounds on me. So that worked well. It was after we moved to Texas, I would still do like a weekly fast, but even now I don't do that anymore. I do have I kind of condensed my eating window, but it's nothing structured. If I feel like I want to eat breakfast in the morning, I'll eat breakfast in the morning. Like I don't think it's not a thought. It's like it's not a planned thing. It's not a thought out thing. It's just where I am now. And again, going back to it being so overwhelming out there. That's what it is to find it for you. The for you part is the less complicated thing. So if you're finding yourself bogged down, this is complicated, I can't figure it out, then it's not for you, or it's not for you at this time. It might be later. So that was really always the biggest shift. And like I said, I did experiment with a full year of carnivore. I felt I felt great. Um, but then I did, which is it's featured in the film, so I don't have to go through it. But then I did the sweet potato experiment, and I love sweet potatoes. So um, I would say I don't. I hate this whole like there's values and I think if you're like 80 to 90% meat based, you can call yourself a carnivore. There's these people who are like, if you eat a seasoning on your beef, then you're not carnivore. I think that's absolutely ridiculous and something our whole entire community needs to work on is seeing the value in a no sugar, no grains, or just like a low carb lifestyle versus, somebody who needs a meat, salt, water only um, diet, and we can all live in the same space and be okay with where each other are. So that's a big deal for me. Uh, so, that just gets back to where I am now is that I am always 100% NSNG, no sugars, no grains, but I'm predominantly meat based. So I'm mostly carnivore. I never, ever, ever stray off of my diet. It's just not worth it to me at this point in my life. I sometimes feel very envious of people who are like, yeah, I can have that one slice of pizza and move on. I'm not that person. And I've made my peace with that. But there is a whole mental part of this where you kind of have to struggle over this sense of loss that you have. It's an important step not to skip. Again, I think the influencers miss that. They'll say it's okay to have this thing every once in a while. That is not a blanket statement for everyone. It's simply not. And that's where you really have to know yourself. I'm the same way with sweeteners. Like I wish I could have the health code um shakes that are in my cabinet. My daughter can have them. I can't. I licked my finger and it's spout off like ratatouille, seeing all the sparkles in the brain when I had that one lick. So I know that that's not for me. I wish I could, because gosh, it would be easy to just have a whole meal shake sometimes, but it's not. It's just simply not an option for me. But I'm not going to begrudge a person who can do those things. That's amazing that you can. But at the same time, I also want to point out you might think you can do those things and you really can't. So there's two ends of every coin there. But that's the that's the shift. That is, I mean, I got rid of anything that's processed. Yeah, I just don't eat any of it anymore.
Man, really excellent answer. And you're answering some of my questions I had for you. And it's just great to get to know you like this because you and I have a lot more in common than I thought. I had no idea that you ever experienced any fasting before. So that's really cool. We can talk about that another time. The thing with the health code, we have health code in the house, and that used to be Samantha's main source of fat was having a health code shake with heavy cream. And there were times that I would lick the spoon and it was like you said, it was like fireworks going off in my head. And there were times where I wasn't doing well and I wanted to go get the ice cream, which is also like one of my favorite things. There's a mom and pop shop a couple blocks from here. They make the best ice cream. And that's usually where my brain goes when I want a treat. I'm trying to use food to self-soothe, but instead of destroying myself like that, there are times where I had the health code and I would melt some coconut oil or maybe cocoa butter when I was still doing that, put the health code in it. Sometimes even go as far as putting it in the freezer to make it like a dessert. And I've had a harder time giving up what's in those stevia and monk fruit, right? I've had a harder time dealing with those than I do with regular sugar. The times that I go and have the ice cream, it's easier for me than when I'm having the health code. It just does something to my brain and my body that I get so hooked on it.
Yeah, I think that my body can process sugar without a problem. I don't test that. The other day or yesterday, my daughter she was really dehydrated. She had a watermelon and I ate a bite of it. But I also know that I have done that in the past where I bought a watermelon for her. And then I ate that. Ate it again. I ate it again and again and again and again. And then like 6 months later, I'm having bowls of ice cream again. So even that fruit sugar will just take me like it's a straight line to just completely off the rails. So it's best for me to abstain. But I know myself. So I was like, can I have one of your slice, not a slice, like a cube, like one little bite of watermelon. And she gave it to me and I ate it and I just moved on. Sometimes if it's particularly bad, I might add something fatty with it to kind of like stop. If it creates a craving, I will add something fatty to get that out of my head. But otherwise, like I'm at this point where I know. And again, I will repeat, if you're just starting, that's not where you are now. And that's okay. You're exactly where you need to be. You've started. You're going to fall, stand up, brush your pants off, and keep going. It'll be okay. We've all been there. Even if we're on the internet and it looks like we've never been there. We have all been there.
I'm laughing because of the ice cream thing. Because I always, when I'm talking to people, I'm like, well, for me, I stick to ruminant meat only because when I have chicken and pork, at least what I can get here in the US and it's conventionally raised, it causes cravings. It causes cravings for more chicken and pork. So what'll happen is I'll start eating more and more of it, and then it leads to other foods. But I always say it ends in Snickers and ice cream. Snickers was always my favorite candy. The Snickers of today is not. They're either I know it's made differently. It just is not what it used to be. So I don't even really enjoy it that much. But I always say it ends in a bowl of ice cream. So it's just hilarious to hear me say it as ice cream.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most like mundane thing, right? Like, and we've been preaching this too, like, oh, you can have fruits in season. No, some people can have a small amount of fruit in season. We're not saying go buy a bushel of peaches and eat them all. We're saying you might enjoy one, add some cream to it, and then move on. Or have one and see if it sparkles in your brain. And if it does, it's really not for you. It's not. I'm sorry, you might think you're getting away with it, but you're not. It's just like you think you can text and drive. You can't. You're all over the road. Stop. It's just not you.
Yeah. So that one of the things I want to highlight, you said about like influencers out there, and they're telling you could have a treat once in a while. And the thing I always point out to people is these influencers, they're not doing this diet for their mental health. They're doing it for autoimmune, for weight loss, for bodybuilding, for so many other reasons. They're not doing it for mental health. So maybe for them, they can have pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving. And so what? Big deal. They can hop back onto their carnivore diet the next day. But for some of us that are doing this for mental health, we will experience symptoms. And even if it's just for me, if it's just as simple as I'm going to bed thinking about pumpkin pie because I had a piece a couple days ago, it's that urge and that craving is going to be enough to bother me. So that's was again part of my motivation for writing this fire diet that's going to come out is it's designed for people doing diet for mental health. That's the other thing I say to people is like the person I was working with, they said person did keto for 4 days and they felt better. Well, what do you even know what kind of like what keto were they doing? We don't even know what their diet looked like. Were they even doing it for mental health? We couldn't even answer all of these questions. They just felt better in 4 days, right?
Yeah, felt better could be a range of things. Like, I mean, and like it could just be like I had a glow about myself. You know, like it doesn't even mean anything physiological at all. It's just, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
what are your metrics here? I mean, you should be able to measure your feelings, but felt better is pretty darn generalized.
Right.
And that is the thing. And I think it's underserved, underappreciated, it's just not discussed enough is that there's so much involved with consumption of anything, your consumption, that we don't acknowledge within ourselves that we might have a problem, that something is overstimulating. So it doesn't have to be mental health. It's just that, you know, these foods are designed to keep you coming back for more. So we all have this kind of ingrained in our system now because we grew up with that. We grew up on this sad diet where everything we eat is associated with pleasure, joy. Um, it's self-soothing. It's how we handle stressful situations, popping something in our mouth. And so we have created a culture of people who are addicted to food, whether we want to call it food addiction or not. So yes, I now eat this diet because I had bipolar disorder and it manages my symptoms. But also, I acknowledge that certain foods are really, really triggering, and it's just easier to keep them out of my diet. That's why I say, you know, maybe you think it's working for you, but it's really not. Because you might find 9 months down the road that some goal that you had set for yourself isn't working. Well, that's the time to reassess. So is this thing really working? It is my sweetener that I just can't get rid of. Is that serving me? And if it's not serving you, or just experiment 3 to 6 months without it and see what the difference feels like. Um, that's an important step in the journey, is to stop, reevaluate, reassess. But I don't think the influencers that are telling you that you could do it like this, you could do it like this, like follow my plan, blah 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 blah. That is no different than Weight Watchers. You're following their plan the way they say to do it, but there's no acknowledgement of this addiction that you may have, or this dependence that you may have, or something you've, even if it's not a true addiction, but something you've just taught yourself about your relationship with food. So some sort of disordered eating pathway. There's zero acknowledgement on that. And if you can look all over the internet, very few people acknowledge that in their overall discussion about the ketogenic diet.
I love it. Like I said, we could probably sit here and talk for hours about this. I love it so much.
It's just a huge disservice. And I feel so horrible because so many people could see so many benefits, but they're getting so confused or misled. And I feel like a lot of these people are purposely misleading them. And that's what really gets my goat, is that I feel like they're purposely being misled so that you'll buy into their system. They are preying on you just like the pharmaceutical companies are. They are preying on you just like these diet systems are. You can do this without buying into a program. I have not ever bought into a program. Thankfully, Vinny Tortorich is out there spreading his NSNG message for free. Anything I bought was because I wanted to. These books back here is because I wanted to deep dive. I wasn't told I had to. And unfortunately, I feel like now, because it has become such a keyword, buzzword, influencer, clickbaity kind of thing, people are going, just being purposely sent down the wrong path for very much the wrong reasons. And I'm just trying to stand in the way going, please don't. You can do this on your own. Just take these simple steps.
Awesome. I love the message. So in my previous question, I asked what your diet was like before, and then you went ahead and you answered what it's like now, but you were specific to say the items that you removed, the sugars and the grains. You didn't really say what you did eat. What did you include? What is left? Because you were describing your diet before, and it was all sugars and all grains.
Yes, I was on the ASAG
Yeah.
diet, and then I went to the NSNG diet.
What did you actually eat? And then what do you eat today? Can you tell us that too?
Yeah, so because I said I was listening to Vinny Tortorich, and that's how I got my start into this. His co-host is Anna Vocino. She also writes tons of recipes. I basically lived off of all of her recipes, which a lot of them are still online on her website, but also I think she's up to 4 cookbooks now. Um, one of them's only online, and then she's got another one coming out, I believe, in October. Um, so I would use like exclusively Eat Happy recipes that didn't exclude vegetables. So we were eating just like meat and vegetables cooked in some sort of fat. Like used to love Brussels sprouts or broccoli cooked with bacon. That would be like a side dish almost every single night. I do enjoy squash every once in a while. Last year when I was in Colorado, my uh, my dad and stepmother both eat a keto diet, so they would have a lot of vegetables. And since I was there with them, I was eating the vegetables. But at home now, most often it's beef. We get a half a cow every 6 months, so we eat a lot of beef around here. I still eat pork and chicken. But it doesn't send me to ice cream like it does for you. So
So wow, takes a long time, but that's here.
it's something to notice. It is something to notice. I do like there was some times there where it was like we'd have beef one night and then pork and chicken every night thereafter. And I was like, no, I need to do this the other way around. I wasn't feeling my best. So now I do try to limit. If I have pork or chicken, it's one or the other, and only once a week at most. Especially because I'm home, so I eat the leftovers. So if we were planning on eating chicken twice in a week, like the dinner twice in a week, then I'm eating it 4 or 5 days because I'm eating the leftovers for lunch. So I just kind of make a little guideline for myself to make sure I try to not do that very often. My diet now is uh, a lot less veggies. If I go and we go out to eat, we have a restaurant here that a smokehouse here that we go once a week. So they make smoked prime rib, and I will always get it with a plain sweet potato, and I bring my own butter and salt with me. So that is just I'm just being good to highlight that because so many people say, well, people look at me funny and I can't do this and I can't do that because people, I don't give a flying whatever about that. I'm bringing it. My server knows, my server's like, you always crack me up bringing this stuff, but we know each other now. We go to the same guy every week. And he's asked about it. We've had a little conversations. Like, I just don't trust restaurant butter, so I bring my own everywhere, and I don't trust restaurant salt, so I bring my own everywhere, and I don't care. So maybe that's also part of the process. You've got to get to that I don't care, the F it point, and say I don't care about this anymore, and just do whatever, because it does not matter. That's the only time I'll eat a sweet potato is if I'm out at the restaurant, or if I at home make a like a chuck roast in the crock pot. I always throw one sweet potato in there for the three of us in the house to share. So I'm not like overly concerned. We do eat a lot of sauce. I make my own sauce. So we were eating a lot of meat crust pizzas with sauce and cheese. I'm trying to reduce that because I know I shouldn't have tomatoes. I know I shouldn't have nightshades. Then I slip it in, and then I'm eating them every night, and then it's just a thing. So again, and I eat the leftovers. So I eat way more. Like Matt's like, I'm fine. I feel fine. I don't have a problem with it. I'm like, yeah, but I'm eating all the leftovers. So I'm having it for 3 days and you only have it for one. So it really does make a difference, the volume of consumption. So I do try to be a little bit more mindful of that. But I've struggled in the past couple years. So it's been harder to have kind of like those rules in place. It's been more like guidelines because I didn't want to find myself so bogged down with rules in a time where I needed to be a little bit more gentle with myself, that I just went with guidelines. So now I'm in this process of kind of like, okay, I got to reassess. I need to really see what I let go. Nothing's off of my dietary plan. It's more the volume of it that's a problem.
Great, great, great. Specific answers. I love it. This is so awesome. Yeah. This is turning out to be so amazing. So let's skip over the food now and let's talk about struggles, setbacks, and recovery. Sound good?
Yes,
All right.
perfect.
You've been open with me recently about some struggles, and I want to know what this has taught you.
Well, I'm gonna take it back. And I appreciate how, like you, me, Mia, um, we've tried on several occasions because there's this special bond that we all have, is that we've been open about it, and we've been open about our health. We've been open about our struggle. So it makes it there's just this piece there that part of you wants to be quiet. And I always tell people, like, if somebody suddenly becomes quiet, reach out to them because they probably need help. Um, it's harder for us to be quiet, or it's harder for us to be noisy about the struggles because we are such champions of the benefits. But I think if we owe it to everyone, including ourselves, anyone, my huge 2,000 people following, to be honest with ourselves, at all times. But I think all of us, the three of us especially, have struggled with that. So I value the fact that we have each other to lean on. But I am, if I'm on a podcast during that time, I'm going to talk about it. So I want to go back. I have actually thought about this question, and I don't want to just answer in the now. I need to go backwards in time a little bit, and it's going to make me cry, and that's okay. Um, I was basically in what I would call my prime of healing 3 years ago. And so many things have happened in the past 3 years. Some of them have been amazing. I was asked to be in a film. I was I was learning using my brain and body to learn how to do Olympic weightlifting. These were all amazing things. Somewhere along the way, my physical health started declining. Um, I had gotten, I have a cyst, or I used to have a cyst, and you can put me on the internet crying. I'm on the internet wearing a aerobic outfit. So me on the internet, it's not new. There's a Metabolic Mind video of me just bawling. So it's totally okay. Um, anyway, somewhere along the line in the past 3 years, my body started failing me. I had, while I was lifting, we thought it was an injury. I had some pretty severe knee pain. So that limited my ability because I was trying to let it rest. At the same time, I knew that we were filming at my gym and that they wanted me to go to a class and lift for the filming. So actually, this is behind the scenes stuff that I've never said to anyone, but I was training very differently before they came. Very light weights. I would just use the bar with maybe nothing on it just to practice the actual lifts. But the training was more that I was doing was more just strength and musculature to try to support this knee injury that we thought that I had. And if anyone knows anything about Olympic weightlifting and they see the video, I mean, it's decent. My form was fairly good. I was still only less than a year into it, so I still had a lot to learn at the time. But you can see that I use it's not it's like a teenager's bar. Like it's not a full size bar. And I think the max weight that I had on there was like 30 pounds. It was not much. I just, I got to look good for the camera. I could do more. I just didn't. And it was mostly because we were all, my trainer, we were all aware that my knee was bothering me. So I could do what I could do. As soon as filming stops, I immediately stopped going to the gym because I needed to rest my knee. I had MRI done on it. There was no sign of injury, no sign of previous injury, and no sign of arthritis. So there's no explanation to this knee pain. And I also was getting shoulder pain and elbow pain. So we associated it with my working out that I had an injury. But this leads me on to a deep dive about perimenopause. And this is something that's not talked about a lot. It's starting to get a little bit more traction, but it's not talked about a lot, is that there is extreme joint pain. A lot of women get frozen shoulder. Thankfully, I haven't. I know people who have. But there's a lot of joint pain associated with the changes in hormones. So what I'm saying now is that perimenopause has not been kind to me. It also, I'm reading more about this now because I'm reading Cynthia Thurlow's new book about menopause and perimenopause. There's a lot of gut changes that happen during that time, and you can become more susceptible to things. So in that 3-year period, in that time, I have knee pain, I have shoulder pain. There's no explanation for it. I have a cyst that I recently got removed from my neck that I had gotten removed at that time that got infected. So it got infected. I was on antibiotics for like 2 months. I had this later in the same year. I had this random infection just bubble up under the skin of my arm. No, like nothing. Like we don't know why. Just this infection. I was on antibiotics for like another 3 months. So I spent like half of 1 year, 3 years ago, on antibiotics. The antibiotics that I was on, they cause joint issues. So you're told, don't work out. Don't do anything that could hurt. Like you're not even supposed to walk. Like this could really bother your joints. You could snap something. Just so this is 3 months. Like I go from my prime of not only I'm lifting heavy, but I'm learning something new. So I'm using my brain in a different capacity and getting this workout to a dead stop. Nothing. I can't even walk. And it is Amazing how quickly your body can just go into relaxation mode and never want to come out again. And that's what I'm currently fighting, is not wanting to come out of that. Um, it it what's the purpose? I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning and hitting the gym. It was hot in the gym. There's no AC there. So I was getting there by 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning to beat the heat. What was the purpose of waking up early anymore if I couldn't go to the gym? So just sleep in. Just sleep in. Like, that's fine. What's the purpose of getting up out of bed if you're not even allowed to walk or walk long distances? So I don't feel like I was in a depression of any sort. I just didn't have any particular motivation to do anything. In the meantime, I get a phone call from home that my mom's really sick and I need to get home. So I'll just put my box tissues closer instead of keep turning around. So, and this was at a joyful time because this is when we met and we were working on metabolic revolution stuff. I turned this energy that I had just sitting around in me into working for volunteering. I can't go work out. I can't go for a walk. What can I do? Well, I can sit in front of a computer and um, help uh, with our message, and that gave me great joy. But my mom gets sick, and I go home, and I am so strong through that time. I don't do a lot of driving. I did all of the driving. And we were in Baltimore, so I was driving in the city. Um, we were I cooked. Like I said, I like chuck roast. So I would go to the grocery store, I'd buy a chuck roast, all the throw it in the crock pot. I'd eat it. When the whole thing was gone, I'd make another one. So I was eating well the whole time and sustaining. It's in fact later, because my mom passed away, at the funeral, I made a chuck roast and I had it hidden because my dad eats low carb. I eat low carb. Matt was there. And of course, the church people were providing food and we knew we couldn't eat it. So I had a secret chuck roast in the kitchen at her funeral. Um, so there's a lot that was hard there because obviously I lost a parent unexpectedly. Um, I wasn't feeling well the whole entire time. I'm having hot flashes and night sweats lighting off of each other like they're chain smoking. Um, but I could still look at it and be like, I made it through this and I didn't crack. It didn't set me off into a depression. So I get back home. That was in October. I get back home. I'm like, okay, it's January. We know I know what the pain is from. I know what's causing the pain. There's not really much I can do about it. So what I want to do is strengthen my knees. So that's when I get in touch with Casey and I say, Casey, I can't do this on my own. I need somebody to help me. So I hire my friend. I tell him I pay him to be my friend. So we start working out, and I'm like, this is what's going on. I have all this joint pain. I've had it checked out. I've had all these infections. I'm trying to fix, make sure my diet's being supportive. So I dove into like taking probiotics and stuff. And I start working out with him, being very mindful, even now, still, being very mindful about this joint pain that I have, to just be supportive of everything around it so that the joint pain doesn't increase. So it's really changed how I work out. I miss the bar so much. But he and I are using elastics and bands, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. This isn't working, but it was working. It's just not what I'm used to. So I'm frustrated because I'm not doing what I want to do, uh, but I'm doing what I can. And I took the step to seek help to make sure I had accountability. 3 months later, I get a phone call. My dad's in the hospital. I pack up everything and I leave again to go to the hospital to go to go help because he's really sick. I spent an entire month in Colorado not helping him, helping my stepmother care for him while he was very, very sick. Uh, when I got there, he weighed less than me, which was hard to see. And he was actually very apologetic for getting sick so soon after my mom's death. Like he had any control over it. But I stayed there and helped nurse him back to health. And actually, he was just here for my daughter's graduation of exactly a year later. Um, and I recorded an episode with him. So if it's not out by the time this comes out, go to Keto Biography and look for the episode with Rob Harris. That's my dad. Because he talks about it. He was really, really sick. And I could say, to go back to health code, that the thing that brought him back to health was the fact that he could eat. We were mixing those with heavy whipping cream, like you said you did for Samantha, and we knew he was getting all kinds of fat, and he was getting a complete keto macro nutrition when he was eating that. And I think that really helped him nurse back to health. Plus the foundation, he was already at SNG before that and strength training. So that's a story you can listen to if you want. But it was hard, right? Like, so everything that I was trying to restart, I finally got the gumption to restart stuff. The antibiotic piece was through. The gym that I was going to had actually closed, so there was no going back to that gym. So seeking Casey, working out with him, it all just kind of, goes on this downward spiral again because I'm in this trauma, this pretty hard situation. Again, I can look at it and say I was strong. I went through it. I still was. In fact, that's where Keto Biography actually got its start. I was not home. I was in Colorado when it got started. And I continued to work out with Casey because Casey is he's a pocket trainer. You can take him anywhere. I take him all over the place with me. So, Casey, my pocket trainer, stayed with me. I worked out with him continuously throughout that whole time. And my parents eat low carb. So I never was off of my dietary plan, except for I was having more vegetables than I normally do. But gosh, that's exhausting. So this was a year ago. A year ago exactly, my dad had this issue. I came home the end of June last year. So this time last year, I was still in Colorado. And it's just been hard. It's just been hard. I've been playing this game with hormone replacement therapy and have had really terrible results with it. Again, I go back to everyone on the internet will say you can just do this, this, and this. And I have all these books here that I've read, I've researched, I've taken classes. I have a doctor who is very well known in this space who I work with, who is helping, and I'm not getting the results I wish I could see. I am exhausted. I'm grumpy. My body hurts. I can't sleep through the night. And I'm just trying to figure out why. I have intense brain fog. But I don't feel like my depression is back. I don't feel like this is a bipolar symptom. I think this all has something to do with my hormones are not being kind to me right now. And it's incredibly frustrating. So that's exactly where I am right now. I am trying to do better. I don't know if, okay, I pointed at the books that are behind me. Some of them will say, go full carnivore. That's the best way to handle your perimenopause and menopausal symptoms. And other ones say, you need to have a certain amount of carbs to support this, this, and this. And I can't find what's right. Some of them are like, do you need all the HRT? Some of them are like, there's no right or wrong answer. Again, this is something I'm working on for myself and experimenting. And let me tell you, this fight that you introduced me with at the very beginning, Stephen, that's very much part of this process. I trust what my doctor has to say, but I've been through so much in the past 3 years that it's very hard for me to commit. So I will dip my toe in something for a little while and try and think everything's going fine. And then something unexplainable will happen and I have to deal with that. So I feel like I have holes in my head sometimes that I can't explain. And that's this intense brain fog. I will be talking to someone. This happened yesterday. Someone I know, someone I talk to regularly. I saw that person and I had to go ask my husband what his name was because I couldn't remember. So now I'm scared that I have something neurological going on and I'm pulling that thread. So, like you mentioned when we talked about, getting the Wi-Fi out of the house, I've realized that since I've returned home from one of my many trips this year, Matt had moved the Wi-Fi into our bedroom, which is the room I'm in all day long. My bed is literally right behind me. Um, and I sleep with it. So I'm in this room. So I started turning that off at night at your suggestion. Uh, I'm gonna get tested. I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna get tested for heavy metals because I used to work as a printer. So I was exposed to heavy metals quite a bit. So I'm gonna get tested for that. We had the recommendation for brain MRI. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go that far yet. I want to pull these like lighter threads first to see what we come up with. But I'm still curious, I still want to figure out what's going on because I don't like feeling this way. And it's everything that I do takes a lot of effort. And I don't want anything to sound like an excuse. It's just the reality of the situation. All of these, like this perfect storm of stuff, all happened in the past 2 years. There's so much that I'm proud of, and yet there's so much that I'm disappointed because I want to be able to do more. At the same time, I tell people, you're like, you can't compare yourself now to who you were before. You have to be who you are now and take the steps from now. Just struggling with that a bit. Like I know it in my head, but it's hard to put into application.
So much there to respond to. I'm going to try to keep it short because I have a lot more I want to get to, but I want to start out by saying I'm sorry about your mom's passing, and I'm sorry that your dad got sick so soon after. And he's very lucky to have you caring for him, and I'm happy to hear that he's back in good health. And I can tell you that being one of the soldiers in the metabolic revolution during that time, and you were the leader at the time, and when you left, there was a big hole, and we felt it, and we missed you, and it was nowhere near the same. I won't get into any details, but your presence was dearly missed during that time. And I want to thank you for being open and honest with us, because it's easy to look at you, especially recently, and you're going around, you're talking on all these panels, and it's like it's a big celebration of your healing and your success. And it's really easy to look at that and say, well, look at Robyn, she's healed, she's in a wonderful place. But what you're describing is what life really looks like behind the scenes. And that, like I said earlier, like you don't just wake up one day and say, okay, I arrived, I'm in keto heaven, and that's it, I'm done. You still have to experience life. And it's obviously it's been difficult for you. You're talking about having this brain fog, and you and I had this conversation the other day, and I can't see it in our times that we're having a working relationship. I don't see it. I know that you're feeling it, but hopefully it's a little reassuring that I can't tell, and I'm sure none of the other people that are volunteering under your leadership can tell either. And then there's just one other thing I wanted to touch on. You talked about missing the barbell, and I barbell lifted for, I don't know, probably 20 years of my life, and the last 5 years before my daughter was born, I was huge into powerlifting, and it was deadlifting and bench pressing. And I screwed up my back and my shoulder and my elbow and all these things. And so I had to give up the barbell, but it was very, very difficult. I describe it like a love affair, and it took me years to kick it. And I would sell my squat rack and my bar, and then a year later I'd miss it so bad I would get it back, I'd start lifting again, and then all these injuries would pop back up. And it's just that feeling of the iron in your hands that you love so much. So I'm sharing this because I have switched over to kettlebells in the last year and a half or so, and you can still get that feeling of the iron. And if you like the sound of the plates clanging against each other, like to me, that's something I love. You can do double kettlebells where when you're doing certain moves, they're clanging together. So maybe you don't have to be all elastic. You can buy really light kettlebells. I bought a pair of really light competition kettlebells. They're 4 kilogram each, so like 9 pounds. So they're like a joke, but I can pick them up and I can still get that feeling of the steel and the clanging and stuff. So
Yeah, I enjoy a kettlebell workout. We did recently inherit a uh, uh, see here this is happening. It's like a machine, like the pulleys with the weights and the like the whole complete set thing. Um,
like a cable machine.
yeah, cable machine.
Okay.
That's the word.
Yeah.
See, it just happened. I couldn't think of cable. So we just recently got that. So I feel better because I do feel it's because for me, and I'm not discounting what a workout, the usefulness of a workout. In fact, that's what I did in the video for Metabolic Collective is we used the bands. For me, the money is in the slow release. It's not the lift, it's the letting it back down slowly. And you just don't get that with the bands the way you get it when you're actually using a weight. So I would love I don't have the space for it, but I would love a set of kettlebells and I'd love to have my own rack. But we did inherit the small cable machine and it feels a lot better. So it's changed the workout a lot. But there's still a lot of motivational things. Like I want to get there. I went from doing something every single day, not the same muscle groups every day, but doing something every single day to now I'm working out mostly once a week and I'm trying to get to two. So it's really like that's a difficult process. This is where I'm at with this. Your body just gets to this set point where just lazy, like just lazy might not be the right word, but just it's easier to sit than it is to stand. So at some point your body just kind of gets used to it and taking that step, that little motivational step to just get yourself in front of the cable machine has been difficult. So I was doing really well with doing twice a week, but then all this travel happened and that kind of knocked me off. So I'm trying to get that back again. So there's things that happen in life and you have to be kind to yourself about it, but at the same time you can't lose the motivation completely and just settle back in because you are the only person who can push yourself to go do the things. And that's just a piece I'm struggling with right now. And I do look at it like I have been on this tour. I've been all over the place promoting the film. It has been cathartic. It has been a healing journey. It has been a celebration. This is not something I would have considered for myself before. And I loved every single minute of it and would not change a thing. But when your energy is limited and you're dealing with some other problems, yeah, it's a give and take. So I was very much, it's not like a high versus a low, but it is the yin and yang of things. It's that things were very exciting and very busy for the past 3 months. And now I'm at that kind of dip and I got to bring myself back up to find level again.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So I can relate a little bit. I understand what you mean about what you're saying about the body. I think the body gets soft and it wants to stay, at least for me, it's like it wants to stay soft. So my experience has been a little bit different. I've dealt with a chronic cramping issue for the last 5 years that I've finally gotten figured out in the last 6 months or so. And it's related to chronic dehydration that I didn't know I had and electrolytes. And I've finally gotten it figured out. But for like 5 years, I haven't been able to work out like I want to because sometimes I would do barely anything and I would be crushed for days. Sometimes my cramps would be so bad that I would get on the floor to stretch and my core muscles would start cramping. I just couldn't do anything. And now that I've gotten my body back a little bit, it's taken some time to get used to it, but I'm still soft. I put on a bunch of weight over the last 12 months. Life has been a little bit stressful and it's been really difficult for me to get back into it the way I want to.
Yeah, I've gained about 10 pounds in the past 2 years. I'm not happy about it. I've had to buy bigger clothes. You do the transfer of the summer clothes and the winter clothes, and none of my summer clothes fit. Then I did the transfer of the summer clothes to the winter clothes, and none of the winter clothes fit. So I've had to have that experience, and I'm not happy about it. Still a work in progress. The lifting thing, or any of it. What's important is you have to be where you are. You can't expect to be where you were. And so, I had just worked myself up to deadlifting my body weight, which isn't much, but I had just worked myself up to deadlifting my body weight. And now I'm lucky if I can do 30 pounds. I mean, and it's okay. Like, at least I'm getting in there and doing that 30 pounds, because the easy thing to do would be like, oh, well, you used to be able to do this and now you can't. So just stop. It's not worth trying anymore. So I have the desire to make it happen, but I also am fighting this extreme just lethargy that has come as a consequence to not being able to do things.
And you have to go back to the message you said earlier that you cannot compare yourself to who you were when you were deadlifting your body weight. You are
Right.
you are who you are today. And so 30 pounds, yeah, maybe it's a shitty number and you don't like it, but that's your number today. And you work on improving that. And when you get it up to 40 pounds in a couple of weeks or whatever it is, you can be happy and proud of yourself because you improved.
Yeah. And the difference of the bar and the cable machine, like I'm doing 30 pounds, but I'm doing sets with 30 pounds, whereas with the bar would be work my way up to that one number and then stop. So there's that too. So it is different. It's not comparable, but it's essential to understand where you are now and not try to do more than that until that presents itself. And so I mean, that's where I am, but it's been a struggle, and I haven't felt horrible. In fact, I overall, I feel fine. I just very heightened, I have a heightened awareness. I think you can understand that. Like, oh gosh, am I going back? Is this happening again? Like, there's always this dark cloud that kind of looms behind that I try not to acknowledge, but at times like this, it's hard not to miss.
I had at least one question about the movie and then maybe one other question and then we can get into our closing. Sound good?
Sure.
Okay.
I can cut off before the closing. That's fine.
Well, if listen, if you don't want to do the tagline, that's fine, but you got to answer the closing questions. I don't think you're intimidated by those, right? All right.
I'm just goofing with you.
In relation to the cholesterol code movie, I want to know what has surprised you most about people's reactions to hearing your story in a movie.
I just stopped crying, Stephen. I had this realization while I was doing a live interview. So I cry all the time. It's okay. Um, I was doing a live with Dave Feldman at our friend Eric's house. So when we were in Durham, I had this realization because of this travel that I had done, and because I was able to interact with people in the theater after a screening. This is the comparison I made, and I'll make it again. When my mom had breast cancer, which is not what ultimately ended her life, but when my mom had breast cancer, what they talked about a lot is valuing the women whose shoulders you stand on. So some women years ago had to go through some pretty barbaric stuff while they were figuring out the treatment for breast cancer, and some people still today do, but they've learned. Again, you're always learning, even hopefully in medical and science, they're always learning. It's not always a true statement, but in this case, that's what they meant. They were learning from the women who went before them. And I just see myself as this person with no following that's pretty passionate about something, that talks about it in hopes of one person hearing it and it making them consider making a change in their life. It's not even like a forced thing, like you have to change your life. It's, if you hear my story and it resonates, I hope that you try it. I hope you try it for yourself and understand that there's some hope there, that you try it for yourself. And always have made myself available. Reach out to me if you need some help. I'm happy to help. That's all it was. But then I realized that I'm shoulders. I didn't know that. I didn't I didn't fully accept that, and still in a lot of cases, in a lot of ways I don't. I Again, I guess this goes back to that self-confidence, that self-worth. I've never felt like I could contribute in the way that I have, and I didn't feel like I was contributing in the way that I have while I was doing it. So the biggest surprise to me is kind of a personal one, is realizing, having people come up to me and saying, I've seen your story. I've had so many people before a screening would happen walk up to me and call me by name Like, why the heck do you know my name? Um, I'd made a little clip of it, but Dave did that super stream and he had all these people on it, all of these big names to me, like people I idolize, who said my name out of their mouth. And it's humbling. It's very humbling. And I'm trying to process all of that because it doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, seriously, that feeling compared to the person who is every day just sitting in this chair working out of the computer is just two wildly different things that I can't make them meet anywhere. Like, it's just very hard to grasp. But I am trying to accept the shoulders that I have become because I did not realize that. And I don't want to say that in a y'all need to look at me and listen to me kind of way. It's just that I didn't realize the impact that I was making while I was making it. And I am trying to accept that about myself because it's easy to push off.
That's really awesome. And I know that you're crying, but I know it's tears of joys over there.
It is.
Joy. And I'm really happy for you. I'm happy that they chose you to be in this movie. And I think you're well deserving of being those shoulders. If I could choose somebody, I'd put you at the top of my list.
I was trying to blow my nose, Steven, but thank you. I appreciate that. And you can keep that in. I honestly, I really don't care. But I do. I appreciate it because I've made all these connections and I've talked to people quite frequently. And like I don't, I don't see it. I just see myself. I say it all the time. I'm just me. And that's it. I'm always me all the time. I'm not putting on some sort of show. I'm not doing anything. I'm not trying to be an influencer. I don't want anybody to ever call me that. I just want to spread this message of hope. It has given me so much that it's important to pay that forward to somebody else. It hurts my heart so much to see people struggling, being misled, and I just want to be some sort of voice of reason in there for someone. And my motivation is not financial. My motivation is totally just help that one person at a time. If they can hear this and it resonates, then I feel like I've done what I needed to do. But it's starting to become apparent that it's been more than one person, and that is just uh too large of a thing to even grasp.
Yeah, that's so cool. I can relate on a much smaller scale. I remember when I was on Casey's podcast, and that right around the same time I interviewed Georgia Eid. So those two shows came out like it might have even been the same day. I forget. It was pretty close together. And I had people contacting me from all over the place. Oh, I heard you on Casey and I really related to this part of your story. And it feels amazing. It really does. But people have a tendency to look at you like a celebrity. And you said you're just me. For me, I use an acronym. It's just a guy, JAG. I call myself a JAG. I'm just a JAG. I'm just a guy. And I always say to people, I'm doing the same thing you're doing. I'm trying to find healing. I'm trying to be happy and calm. I'm just a guy doing it. That's all it is.
And for whatever reason that story got noticed for me. Not everybody's going to have that same experience, and I'm very fortunate to have had that and feel very thankful for that. But that doesn't discount the importance of your story. Okay, you don't get picked up by some movie. It's okay. It's fine. Keep going out there and telling your story. It's still extremely valuable. No matter what, there's a lot of value there. And I'm so, so passionate about that. The science can be there, but not everybody can relate to the science, but people can relate to stories. And so if you feel so compelled to share it, I highly encourage anyone to do it because it's so necessary to meet in the middle somewhere. I've been saying this quite a lot recently. You cannot deny our stories. You can pick holes in science because the way science is now, like you start looking at one thing instead of looking at the overall picture. A lot of studies now are including snippets of lived experience with it so that it's not just numbers on a paper. And I love that because I feel like so many times at the end of this experiment we're trying to talk about a human application. So I'm glad they're finally trying to add that. But we are out there. We have stories. Why not go ahead and start telling them now so we can meet in the middle? Somebody can read the science and have questions, and then somebody else can say, well, this is the experience I had, and look how well it's working for me. I don't care n equals one or not. It's still there. And you can't look at me, you can't look at you can't look at a lot of the people that we associate with and say that it's not working. And we need those voices. So it's so important to have those voices out there, because the more of us that there are, the less they're capable of denying it.
Exactly. It's very well said. And I think the biggest thing I've learned from telling my story is that you never know who's listening. And it's always surprising where in the world they might be too. And you just never know how many people are going to relate, how many people are going to have an impact on you, and how lasting it can be too. It was just like a month ago that somebody said, hey, I heard you on Boundless Body, and they wanted to talk about part of my story. Like, I forgot, it's been so long, I forgot I even did that. I don't even, like, I had to like go back and look at the interview. Like, I'm not even sure what I even said, but somebody related to my story. And then we got to talking, and I made a new friend. You never know who's listening.
You never know. And I want to use this as a small plug for Metabolic Collective. Today, day of recording, is our first official day with our community. It's hosted by Mighty Networks, very much our idea, Stephen, back over a year ago when we said we wanted to have community. We wanted specifically a community for the mental and neurological health space, because there's plenty of keto communities, but none that are specific. And it's been a while in the making. It's been a year in the making. We started with a Facebook group. It's not going the way we want it to, because people have this anti-social media thing going on, which I don't begrudge anyone. So we just launched literally today our not social media community that's based on our website. And my idea behind it, I think you were in agreement at the time, was we wanted to bring that specific connection. I saw you on a podcast. I saw your Think Smart profile, and I just wanted to talk to you and pick your brain about some things. That's what we want in our community. So it's brand new, just launched. Go to metaboliccollective.org. You have to send an email basically, but there'll be clickable links. Our website's not yet updated, but hopefully it will be updated soon. But essentially, if you email info@metaboliccollective.org and say, hey, I'd like to be a part of that community, you'll go through the process and you'll get the link and you'll join our community. And that is what we want. We're going to do like live conversations. So like, I might go on it, Stephen might go on it. And if you've seen us on a podcast or our Think Smart profile or in the film, whatever, you would actually have contact with us, real human contact with us, and that excites me so much. So we want you in there if you've been on, if you've, especially if you have a Think Smart profile, but anybody with a story that they want to share. If you want to come in and you want to get connection with people, this is what we're trying to build inside of our community.
And the community and the connection is extremely powerful. It is a metabolic therapy in its own. It's just like laughter is medicine. Community and connection with other people is just like medicine. It's good for your mitochondria. It's good for your brain.
Yeah, I'm so super excited about it. This is what I envisioned all along. So glad we finally gotten to this point. So I can't wait to see what happens as it grows.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's get into our closing questions. So you've seen these ahead of time. Hopefully, you had a chance to think about them. The first two here are going to be questions posed to your younger self. The first one is related to diet and mental health. What is a piece of advice you'd give to your younger self before you discover this diet? Something on the lines of how to get through the tough times.
That's a hard one, in that I feel like what I did was right at the time. I I was embarrassed to talk about it. Um, as stigma goes, it makes you want to be quiet. So most people didn't know, but I had confided in my sister. So I can look back and say that was the right thing to do. Um, so I guess I would say to not let the stigma keep you quiet.
That's excellent. I love that. So now the second question is not related to diet and mental health, but more of a life lesson. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't be so scared of everything. I mean, I'm scared of everything. That's why this experience over the past couple months of getting in front of people, I mean, that is the celebration of a very long journey of going from being unable to use the phone to being able to sit on the stage in front of a bunch of people. It appears the lesson I'm learning here is the things that you're afraid of are the things you should be doing. Within reason, safety concerns, I guess, but the things you're afraid of are the things you should be doing because it pushes you outside of that comfort zone.
I love you. I love that. It's just like we said at the top about doing hard things. And I can remember like years ago when I wanted to start running 5Ks. A friend of mine was running. I've never been a runner. And the thought of running a 5K scared me. And I thought, I had this feeling like, okay, if this scares me, I got to do it. And it was the same thing. I've had that experience a lot of times. A lot of times it's with something physical, like the deadlifting. I wanted to get up to 4 plates, and the idea of it scared me. So I knew I had to tackle it. I had the same feeling when I was getting back into podcasting. Now it's only been a couple of weeks here, but I was scared, and I was scared to come on, especially on your show with no structure and no outline ahead of time. And the scary part is what motivates me. I know that I need to do it because I know that facing that fear and overcoming it will help me grow and become a better person.
You live to tell the tale. That wasn't your last podcast. See, we're doing one now. So obviously you can pick it up and move on.
And what's interesting about that is, so I always have nerves and jitters before I am conducting an interview or being interviewed. That always happens. For some reason today, I was more calm than usual, and I think it's because you and I had such a great conversation, and it was laid back and it was chill. And today, coming into this, felt more like I'm just hanging out with a friend, having a conversation. It didn't feel like an interview, and so that's a result of facing the way I felt to be on your show last week.
Yeah, this is it. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's like uh you have to do these things. The growth doesn't happen if you avoid them. So you have to do these things in order to get better. My anxiety was so high all the time because I was just fearful of talking to people. And now I host a podcast. Like I can say it like nonchalantly. There are times you'll hear in the I had the great fortune of talking to Dr. Brett Scher. I was nervous. I don't even know why, because I've met him. It wasn't like he was a total stranger, but I just, for whatever reason, had a bunch of nerves that day. So it's not gone, but it's certainly much easier to manage or to notice and be precautionary. And again, we talked about that, I guess, in my show or in one of our other conversations, is like the more often you put yourself in that position, the better it gets. I've been doing this kind of chatting thing for probably 4 or 5 years now. And now I'm at this point where I didn't feel nerves going on stage. I got to enjoy the excitement of doing that, which is certainly not something that could have been said even a year ago. I don't know if I was ready then.
That's amazing. Yeah, it gets better with time. It's just like we can put out the message that the longer you're on keto, the better it gets, the easier life gets. It just, you improve with time. You just got to keep doing it.
Yeah, and you got to just stop putting the roadblocks up. So there's always going to be something that you could create for yourself as a roadblock. The more of those that you can push aside, the better off it's going to be.
Exactly. Okay, I got one question left. This is a question that encourages you to share a broader, more philosophical insight or life lesson that ties into your experience with the ketogenic lifestyle and provides something meaningful and potentially new even after our in depth interview. So, what's one powerful piece of fat fueled philosophy, a life lesson, or a mantra that you've embraced on your ketogenic journey and that you think could inspire our listeners?
So this isn't a mantra that I have because of my ketogenic lifestyle, but it is a mantra that I had to use throughout my life, um, with anxiety that I've passed on to my children to use in their life. And that is, I'm not the first person to ever do this, and I won't be the last. So that gets me through quite a bit, actually. It's just to tell myself it's going to be okay. And that applies for all life, not just your ketogenic uh, or metabolic uh, treatment for whatever ails you.
Perfect. Amazing piece of advice for anybody out there. Everybody in life needs to hear that. Awesome.
Isn't it that everybody needs to hear everything I have to say? I'm super famous now.
I forgot I'm dealing with a movie star here. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Check yourself.
You know what's coming next?
Oh gosh, there's a hat.
I got it. Yeah, I got to do it. This is my thing. I'm taking my earbuds off, so I won't be able to hear you. But this is all about having tenets in life. We talk about the keto diet and the sunshine and body movement and all the things that we do. One of my tenets is to have fun and enjoy life, because if you
Here,
can't
I have
enjoy life, like what are we even doing here on the planet? Why are we even existing? So this is my way of having fun and enjoying life. Let me get my earbuds. They got all tangled over here. All right, so
I don't have anything particularly fun up here, so I'm wearing my metabolic. This isn't my metabolic collective hat. Somebody might get this one day, and it's been on my head.
Cool. So this is like my persona, and I have my tagline for the show. It's "Fix yourself with fat." I have my own way of doing it, and then I've been asking all of my guests to say the tagline in their own unique way. So I'm gonna go first. I say, "Fix yourself with fat."
And then I all sheepishly say, "Fix yourself with fat."
Hey, if that's your unique
Does
way,
that work?
it's just like your keto diet is yours, your tagline is yours. You say it how you want to say it.
Yeah, I think I like my sheepish way of saying it because it is honest. And I get a great joy making people laugh, and you totally just laughed. So I think that works for me.
So plus you get to plug the collective with your hat, so that's cool.
Yeah, and somebody might win this hat one day and be like, "Why is it filled with white hair?" And I'll be like, "Oh, it's on my shelf, and I used it for Stephen's
It's funny is I put the chains on to do the tagline, and then we'll say goodbye in a second, and then I always forget. When I go back and do the editing, I get towards the end of the show, I'm like, I have my chains on still. I always get a kick out of that.
Well, you can't take your ears off again and take your chains off.
It's all about having fun.
I do have fun stuff up here, but I don't have fun wearables.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I feel like we could have went another 3 hours, and I had a whole ton of questions we never got to. That's usually how it ends up, but it was amazing to get to know you a little bit better, to see how many more similarities we have. You and I were going to talk about fasting at some point. I want to hear about that. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. I want to talk about the barbell with you some more too at some point. It's really been such a pleasure to have you on.
How about we say this? I mean, we could always record again sometime, but we can have those conversations in the community.
Let's do it.
And then other people can join in too, because we all have stuff to talk about. So we can meet there, but we talk to each other all the time anyway. So I'm sure we'll talk about it. But I loved it. Fix yourself with food.
Mean it at least. Say it like you mean it. Come on.
Fix yourself with food.
Oh.
No, seriously, Stephen, you've just been such an important part of, especially this past couple of years, of getting to know you and really seeing things for myself that I didn't know, and being able to talk specifically to you about them. And it's been huge. And I don't think I've shown you the appreciation enough for that, but you've become quite valuable. That's the first time I've openly and honestly shared about this past 3 years, and it was an honor to share that with you.
Well, I appreciate that so much. I really do.
And not with Casey.
Oh, I'm gonna let him know that one.
Oh, well, he knows about it because we talk every week, but I didn't do it on his show. I did it on yours. So yeah.
And speaking of Casey, he did a pretty good tagline. I don't know if you saw his, but it was pretty good.
Not as good as Fix Yourself.
All right, now you've done it like 4 times. Now I'm gonna have to, when I do my montage, now I have to put you in there 4 times.
4 times whispering, "Fix yourself with food." There's 5. But you have to keep your laughing in as well, because that's the beauty of it.
Obviously.
Yes, thank you for spending some extra time with me today. I'm closing out your show for you. Go spend some wonderful daddy-daughter time, because these days are very important and they don't last forever.
Absolutely. It's fourth grade field day. I'm going to see right now. I can't wait.
Yes, go do it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, Robyn.
Bye.